Test, test. Testing. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here for our midweek service. And you may be wondering, oh, who is that guy standing up there? That's not Eric. Eric is on his way. My name's Dakota. Eric is on his way to Rwanda right now. So he is going to be there and traveling over the next 2 weeks. So I'm here this week and next week, and then we have a special guest speaker on the first Wednesday of March. But we're still going to move right along as we were in our series in Genesis. I'm really excited for our study tonight. But before we jump into that, would you pray with me? Oh, Father, we are so thankful for your word and so thankful that you still speak to us today. Lord, I pray and ask now that as we look at your word, that you would be working in our lives, working in our hearts, molding us, shaping us into the image of your Son. May these stories come to life in us and move us to greater obedience and love and knowledge of you. Father, would you give me clarity of speech and help us all to listen to the words that you have for us tonight. In Christ's name, amen. All right. So, I've got a lot of ground to cover tonight, so just going to start right away. We are in chapter 27 tonight. Eric touched on the very end, the last two verses of chapter 26, and I want to just kind of pick those up before we move into 27. They become quite important later on in the message. So starting in Genesis 26 and verse 34, the text says, "When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and also Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah." I tie this in partly because chapter divisions are, I don't think they're inspired. They were a much later addition to the text. We don't have to break where the chapters break, but this kind of clues us into some of the events that are going to happen later on in this story. And we remember from when Isaac got married, it was very important to Abraham that Isaac not marry a Canaanite woman. It was very important to him. Abraham knew the value, the necessity of marrying one woman and staying faithful to her, and the troubles that came with getting involved in different women and the situations that led to. So he impressed upon Isaac that he was not to marry a Canaanite woman. And now Isaac's oldest son, Esau, marries not just one, but two Canaanite women at the same time. This was not good for Esau to do. If there was one thing that Isaac did not like about his son Esau that the text tells us, it's that he married these two women, and they were a source of grief for both Isaac and Rebekah. So, moving right into chapter 27 now. The text says, when Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I am now an old man, and I don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like, and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now, I'll have to ask the question, what is a blessing? Because sometimes we use this term in modern English vernacular just to mean like well wishes, but it's much more than that. It's more than just a, hey, hope everything goes good for you, blessings, best of luck to you. It's more than just a warm sentiment that we give to someone. It's an act of benevolence. It's an act of actively benefiting someone else. And even more than that, in Isaac's case, Isaac was the one who inherited the blessing, the promise that God had given to Abraham, right? Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Isaac, and Abraham pleaded with God, can it be Ishmael? Can Ishmael be the one that receives this blessing, this promise that you had given to me? And God had told him, no, it is through Isaac that your offspring will be named. The promise, the blessing is going to go through Isaac. So Isaac now is the possessor of this blessing. And he has his two sons, and he's going to decide, who do I give this blessing to? And we learned from the text last week that he liked Esau. He loved Esau more than he loved Jacob. Esau was this hairy man, this man's man, right? This hunter, this outdoorsman. Jacob was maybe a little effeminate. He had smooth skin. He liked being at home, at the tents. Isaac was like, yeah, Esau, this is my guy. I'm going to pass my blessing along to him. That was what he desired to do. Now, verse 5, it says, Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. And we remember, what had God promised Rebekah? Chapter 25. What did God promise Rebekah? What was it? Yeah. The older shall serve the younger. The older shall serve the younger. Jacob is going to be the one to receive the blessing. Rebekah knew this. And so she overhears that Isaac wants to work in a different direction. God had revealed to her that Jacob was going to receive the blessing. Isaac is working so that Esau will receive the blessing. Now, if you're a wife, not that your husband would ever do this, but what do you do when your husband starts doing something that God does not want you to do? What do you do when your husband is commanding you to do something where you know God wants you to do something else? What do you do when you're in that rock and a hard place situation? Well, you obey God first. You obey God first. Amen? Yeah, we obey God first. Even if your husband, you're supposed to submit to your husbands. And if they're telling you to do what God has told you to do, great. You submit to them. If they're speaking in an area where God has not spoken clearly, submit to them. But if they're telling you to do something that actively goes against a clearly expressed command of God, your responsibility is to obey God first. Wives should submit to their husbands after submitting to God. You submit to God first. And husbands just a note for us husbands in the room, our wives are God's bride first. Our wives are God's bride first. They are his creation, his people, his bride in a greater way than they are our brides. Our responsibility is to lead them and love them and act in such a way that points them and draws them and compels them further into obedience to Christ. Does that make sense? That's our job as husbands. Isaac, however, was not doing that in this case. Isaac was actively working against what God had told Rebekah. So, when Rebekah hears that Isaac is giving out the blessing, she begins to work. She goes to work. Look at the second half of verse 5. It says, when Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat so that he may give you his blessing before he dies. Rebekah hatches a plan to deceive her husband. Ouch. She hatches a plan to trick Isaac, to trick him out of doing what he wants to do. But remember, what he wants to do is actively working against God. Now, to Isaac's benefit of the doubt here, the text doesn't say that Isaac actually heard that revelation that God had spoken to Rebekah. Right? It just says God spoke to Rebekah and said, the nations are warring within your womb. The older will serve the younger. It never specifically says that God said that to Isaac or that Rebekah had transmitted that information to Isaac. So maybe Rebekah is somewhat at fault for not communicating that to Isaac. We don't know. The text doesn't say. Perhaps she didn't do it. Perhaps she was afraid to do it because she thought things would go worse, that it would complicate the situation, right? She knows that there's tension between the two, and maybe saying, well, God told me this would just kind of make the situation worse. We don't really know. The text doesn't clarify. But what we do know is that Isaac is working against God, and Rebekah comes up with a plan to trick him. Now, some commentators in this section give Rebekah a really hard time because she is actively working to deceive her husband. And some people look at that and they go, well, she really didn't need to do anything. She's kind of, taking matters into her own hands, and she's not living by faith, and they come up with all these sorts of things. So it's like, well, okay, does God need Rebekah to deceive Isaac for the purpose of Jacob getting the blessing? Does God need Rebekah to do that? No, of course not. Right? God doesn't need you or I or this church or any individual or entity to accomplish the purposes that he has. If he said it, it will come to pass. It's guaranteed. Take it to the bank. So God doesn't need Rebekah to act in this way. However, God wants us to work with him. And God blesses those who work toward the ends that he has revealed. So, does God need, for example, God has commanded that we go and make disciples of all nations. Does God need you to personally go to all the nations to make disciples for that to happen? No. No, he doesn't need you. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need this church, right? God will accomplish it with or without us. However, if we hear that command and in faith and obedience begin going to all nations and making disciples, God will use our work and bless our work toward the ends that he has stated. Does that make sense? It's not that he needs us. It's not that he needed Rebekah to do this. But Rebekah sees, okay, this is where Isaac is going, and this is where God said that things are going to go. So I'm going to start walking this way and going where God has clearly revealed that things are going to go. I'm going to work that way. Do you see the faith of Rebekah here? She's not seizing the moment, taking matters into her own hands. It's not a lack of faith on her part. It's actually walking in faith, saying, well, God has said that this is going to happen. So I'm going to go that way. I'm going to do what I can according to what God has revealed to work toward that end. Now, verse 11, Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, but my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing. Jacob realizes that there is risk in this plan. Right? It's not a foolproof plan that Rebekah comes up with. If Isaac recognizes him in this attempt to steal the blessing, things will probably get worse. Right? Because at the moment, as far as Jacob and Rebekah know, Isaac is going to bless Esau, and then what's left for Jacob? I don't know, maybe a small blessing, maybe nothing at all, but like blessing for Esau and then kind of meh for Jacob. But if Isaac finds out that Jacob is trying to deceive him, he's like, I'm not just going to get the leftovers, I'm going to get a curse. It's going to be worse for me. Like this is very risky. This is very dangerous for Jacob to go along with this plan. And he points out the obvious, like, I feel different than my brother. And if my dad touches me, it's all done. Like he's going to know, he's going to feel the difference. There's some weakness in this plan. There's some risk in this plan. And walking by faith usually means walking in areas that are risky. So, verse 13, listen to her response. His mother said to him, my son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me. Now, is that how this works? Can Rebekah take the curse from Jacob? No. Right? If Jacob goes into Isaac, Isaac finds out. Isaac pronounces a curse on Jacob. Jacob can't turn around and go, Mommy, Daddy cursed me. Please take it. And she go, oh, sweetheart, let me take that from you. She can't do that. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. She can't take it from him. But note the love that Rebekah has for Jacob. What she's saying is that if she could, she would take this curse and bring herself harm for Jacob's sake. Right? She's identifying with her son Jacob, identifying with him and saying, if you are cursed, I will be cursed with you. She loves her son Jacob. She has great love for her son Jacob. It's a deep, self-sacrificing love. And I hope you hear in that not only she has love for Jacob, but she has faith. Now I mentioned this earlier, but she has faith. Because even if Jacob were to get caught and Isaac were to curse him, she believes and trusts that what God had said will still come to pass. And that God's blessing on Jacob is of greater value and a greater reality than any curse that Isaac could put on him. Do you see the faith of Rebekah here? This is amazing. Rebekah demonstrates incredible faith, saying, I will be with you. Even if it's a curse from Isaac, even if Isaac were to curse us, I'm sticking with you. We're sticking to this plan. God will bless, and that's worth more. However, if it does happen, things could go pretty bad. This is one of the things that she can't do, is she can't take away the words that Isaac will say to his sons. And I want to pause right here and say, fathers, your words have power. Your words have power in the lives of your sons. Not the kind of power of like, hey, do the dishes or clean your room or don't go see that person. Not like that kind of power to where you snap your fingers and make it happen. Your words, whether you speak blessing or cursing to your sons, will stick with them for the remainder of their lives. How many of us could recall a time, without even preparation, you didn't know this question was going to be asked, how many of us could recall a time where our father insulted us? Anybody? Anybody have a father? Okay. Or maybe on the flip side, how many of us remember a specific time where our father praised us and it's stuck with you? Yeah. These kind of words of blessing or cursing have incredible power over your children. You know the old phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. And it's meant to kind of cover up the fact that the words actually do hurt. And they scar deeply. Especially words of insult that come from people that we love. People that we trust or respect. People like our parents. Right? Words that our parents say to us can cut deeply. And will remain with us for a long, long time. So, fathers, I would ask you, how would your children describe your words to them? If you were to ask your sons, and I would challenge you to do this, ask your children, whether they're still children in the home or more likely if they're out of the home now, ask your children, how are my words to you? Do you recall me speaking blessing and praise? Or do you recall me speaking criticism and cursing and insult? How were my words to you? How have my words stuck with you? Ask them. And then listen. Listen to what they say. And if they say, oh, well, it really hurt me that one time when you said that I really shouldn't do this. Don't try to justify yourself and go, well, you shouldn't have done that thing, right? Don't try to justify yourself. Listen. Just listen to hear. Okay, how have your words impacted them? What words do they remember? What words do they remember? What kind of a father were you in your words to them? The words of a father have incredible impact on the life of a son. I know in my own life, even at my dad's funeral a year and a half ago, I talked about this. People talked about his way with words and how he was, calling them and catching up. Hey, how you doing? It's been a while. You're just on my mind. My dad was really, really good at that. And I opened the time that I got to talk and I said, yeah, my dad's words, they were really something. I remember some of the harsh things that he said to me. I remember a lot of harsh things that he said to me, criticisms that he had, or ways that he pointed out that I had flaws, things that he wished were different about me. And I feel like I was often the son that he got, but not the son that he wanted. Our words have a big and lasting impact on our children. So watch your words. Jacob feared the words of his father. He was afraid that his father would speak a curse over him. But he did as his mother told him. Verse 14, he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. So Rebekah does all of this, right? She's the initiator. She's the actor. She's the one that came up with the plan. She even cooked the food. She grabbed the clothes. Jacob is pretty passive in this whole thing. He's just like, you sure about this? And she says yes. And he's like, okay, fine. And he goes along with it. She prepares Jacob as the best as she can. Verse 18 says, he went to his father and he said, my father. Yes, my son, he answered. Who is it? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. And I can imagine, I know the text doesn't say this, but based on other clues in the text about Esau's personality and characteristics and Jacob's personality and characteristics, I bet it kind of sounded like this. He was like, I am Esau, your firstborn. I am Esau, right? Trying to manipulate his voice to make it sound more like his brother. I imagine, and the text doesn't say, but I imagine that he had a higher pitched voice than Esau did. And so he walks and he's like, hi, I'm Esau, right? He's trying to make his voice, trying to manipulate his voice, make it sound lower, to sound like he is his brother. He said to his father, verse 19, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing. Isaac asked his son, how did you find it so quickly, my son? The Lord your God gave me success, he replied. Is that true? No, not in the sense of it, he didn't go out and find the wild game and hunt it and bring it back quickly. It wasn't a blessing of the Lord in that sense. And he's lying about who he is and trying to deceive his father. So no, that wasn't the Lord's blessing. But in an ironic and prophetic sense, the Lord would give him favor. The Lord would give him success. As we'll see, he is successful in cheating his brother Esau out of the blessing. So it was, as God had said to Rebekah all that time prior, the blessing would go to Jacob. So that was the Lord's doing all along. So maybe the Lord was, again, in an ironic and maybe even unaware to Jacob prophetic type of way, the Lord was giving him success. He just didn't know it. Then, verse 21, Isaac said to Jacob, come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not. And if I'm Jacob, I'm sweating here, right? I'm sweating so bad. I don't like lying. Like my pulse raises. I would be terrible at a lie detector. Awful. And he's like, okay, I'm here. And Isaac says, come here, let me touch you, my son. I'm like, okay, okay. Sure, Dad. So verse 22, Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are like the hands of Esau. And those goat skins did the trick, didn't they? What a guy, Esau. Feels like goat skin. Yeah, crazy. Verse 23, he did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to bless him. Are you really my son Esau, he asked. I am, he replied. Then he said, my son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing. Jacob brought it to him, and he ate. And he brought some wine, and he drank. And now at this point, it seems like the task is complete. The deception, the ruse, it's gone by, right? He's given him the food, and now just to receive the blessing. Verse 26, then his father Isaac said to him, come here, my son, and kiss me. One last test, right? Isaac was blind. He couldn't see who his son was, so he's using his other senses, right? The sense of hearing said, well, it's Jacob. It's Jacob's voice. But the sense of touch said, well, it's Esau, because Jacob's not hairy like that. So what's he going to do? What other sense does he have? His sense of smell. So he says, come here, my son, kiss me, to get a sense of the smell of him, to see if he could finally decide whether it was Esau or Jacob. So verse 27, it says, Jacob went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him. There it is. He smells Esau's clothes and goes, this must be Esau. And with that in mind, thinking that this was Esau, this is the blessing that Isaac gives to his son. He says, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you, and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. What a blessing. What a blessing for Isaac to give to his son. Right? The things that he says, you are like a blessed field, my son. And he says, may you have earth's dew and heaven's richness. May all of creation, the heavens and the earth, be fruitful for you. Right? A field that the Lord has blessed, an undoing of the curse. May God be with you in such a way that the curse is undone when you are around. May you bring fruitfulness out of the earth. And then may you have grain and wine, food and drink. And symbolically, as the promises go, as all of the Old Testament does, pointing forward symbolically to Christ. Right? Grain and new wine, bread and wine. May you be the one to receive this blessing, my son. Knowing that the snake crusher, the one who is going to undo all the curses, may he come through you. And then he says, may nations and your brothers bow down to you. Right? Have all people at your service, whether you know them or not. May they be your servants. So I want the ground to bless you, and I want everybody around you to bless you. I want the ground to be favorable towards you. I want people to be favorable towards you. And if that weren't enough, I want God to give you his favor. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. Do you hear Genesis 12 here? Do you hear the promise given to Abraham? I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. He's saying, I've been entrusted with this blessing, with this promise from God, from my father Abraham. What God told my father Abraham, and he gave to me, now I am giving to you, my son. I'm passing on to you the blessing, the promise, the covenantal favor of God that was given to my father and given to me. I'm giving you everything, my son. I'm giving you the benefit of the land, the benefit of all people, and the benefit and favor and covenantal love of God. I'm giving it all to you. But remember, Isaac thinks that this is Esau, not Jacob. This is a blessing designed for Esau in Isaac's mind. And if I'm Jacob, I'm both excited for the blessing, because what else is there to give? What else is there that Jacob could have asked for, right? But if I'm Jacob, I'm excited for the blessing, but I'm also heartbroken in knowing that my father wanted that blessing to go to my brother and not me. That my father would have given that extreme level of favoritism to my brother at my expense. Right? Isaac leaves nothing for the other son. Isaac doesn't know that he's talking to Jacob, but Jacob does. Jacob, as he's hearing this, he's receiving it, but he's thinking, Dad, you must hate me. you're leaving nothing for me. You're giving everything to my brother. What kind of favoritism? The love that Isaac had for Esau was great. He wanted to give Esau the best. He wanted to give Esau everything. Favor from the land, favor from all people, favor from God. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to be given. There was nothing that was going to be saved for Jacob. And in a cruel twist of fate, it ends up doing just the opposite of what Isaac wanted it to do. His favoritism, his focus of giving everything to Esau backfires. And everything goes to Jacob. And Esau is left with nothing. That kind of favoritism has no place in God's household, especially amongst our families and with our children. It hurts Esau, it hurts Jacob, it hurts everyone. That kind of favoritism is not good. Verse 30 says, after Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. What timing. What timing. Just as he was leaving, oh, here comes Esau. None the wiser to what had just happened. Verse 31, he too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, my father, please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing. His father asked him, who are you? I am your son, he answered, your firstborn, Esau. Verse 33, Isaac trembled violently. Can you imagine? Just now figuring out that he had been tricked. He had been deceived in this way. Trembling violently. And I imagine that even coming out in his voice. He says, who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him. And indeed, he will be blessed. Isaac realizes what he's done, and the fact that what he's done cannot be undone. It can't be taken back, right? It's not just, sorry, Jacob, didn't mean for you to get that gift. Let me give that to Esau instead. He can't do that. Right? It's been said, it's done. It cannot be revoked. It cannot be taken back. And when Esau, verse 34, when Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me too, my father. You hear the desperation in his voice. Bless me too. Dad, isn't there anything left? What is left? But he said, your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. Esau said, isn't he rightly named Jacob? Deceiver, trickster, rascal, as Eric said last week. Rascal. Isn't he rightly named deceiver, Jacob? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing. Well, actually, you kind of gave him your birthright, so that's your fault, Esau. But he says he's taken my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing. And this two-time action, this is the second time he's taken advantage of me, is often used in Hebrew storytelling to show that something is firmly established and cannot be undone. Right? Think of Pharaoh's dream about the cows and the corn. Right? He has the dream twice. And Joseph tells him, well, that means God has made it sure to you. You know for certain that this is going to happen because it happened twice. He had the same dream twice. So now Esau's saying, he's stolen my birthright and he's stolen my blessing. It's done. It's a done deal. Can't be taken back. Can't be undone. And then he asked, haven't you reserved any blessing for me? Right? The same question that Jacob probably would have been thinking when he was receiving the blessing that was meant for Esau. Wow, Dad, do you think to give anything to me? Or are you going to give it all to my brother? You hear the heartache, but it's only made worse by Isaac's reply. Verse 37, Isaac answered Esau, I have made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son? Isaac says, I've given him everything. I can't think of anything else that I have to offer. Right? I've signed it all over. Right? You hear the metaphor there, like, well, I signed the paper. The deed is done. I can't take back now what's happened. And I've given it all to him. There's nothing left in my estate. I have nothing left to give to you, Esau. Verse 38, Esau said to his father, do you have only one blessing, my father? Right? As if starting to reckon with the fact that it can't be undone. It can't be taken away from Jacob and given to Esau. He says, do you only have one blessing? Is there nothing beyond this? Is there nothing more that you could be given, that could be given to me? Bless me too, my father. And then Esau wept aloud. It's tempting to view Esau as just a victim in this story. Because you hear the heartache, you hear the cry in his voice, you hear the pain. And we've been in situations like that where people have tricked us, robbed us, and we feel that pain that Esau feels. But remember where we started tonight? The end of chapter 26? What did he do? He married 2 Canaanite women. And they were a headache, a sore spot, a problem, a source of grief for Isaac and Rebekah. Not only were they painful to his parents, it was an act of sexual immorality. Right? You're not supposed to marry the Canaanite women, but then marrying 2 of them? This is immoral. This is sexual immorality. And I never quite understood Hebrews 12, talking about Esau, until studying for this. And now I think it makes sense. Hebrews 12 says, see that no one is sexually immoral or is godless like Esau. See to it that no one is sexually immoral or godless like Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance rights as the oldest son. From Genesis 25. Afterward, as you know, when he wanted to inherit this blessing, he was rejected. Even though he sought the blessing with tears, he could not change what he had done. There is a finality to our actions. There's a finality to what we do. We can limit consequences sometimes. We can work to reconcile or rebuild what has been broken. But you can't undo the past. You can't take back the harsh words or the word of insult that you spoke. You can't take back the mean thing that you did. You can't take back the time that you lied or cheated someone. You can't undo a harm. Not only was Esau sexually immoral, but he was godless. He was proud. He was arrogant. He was foolish in a lot of ways. Even though he looked the part. He looked the part of a son that you would want to bless. He wasn't in heart. Now, after his pride comes humiliation. Verse 39, his father Isaac answered him, all right, Esau, here's your blessing. Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You're going to live in the desert. right? No dew from heaven and no plentiful crops. You're going to live in the desert. Verse 40, you will live by the sword and you will serve your brother. Now, remember, if anything, this was the blessing that was originally meant for Jacob, right? This is all that he had left, because Isaac gave everything in that first blessing. This was all that was left. He says, you should live by the sword. Given to Esau, I think Esau is going to do all right. Right? He's a skilled hunter. He's an outdoorsman. He's a tough guy. He's hairy. He's burly. Right? He could probably live. He'll live with a sword in his hand. He'll do just fine. But if Isaac had planned on giving this to Jacob, I don't think Jacob would have lasted. Isaac is in a passive way, almost admitting, like, I would have sent Jacob off to die. Send Jacob to live by the sword? The mama's boy who lives in the house and never leaves? That's a death sentence for Jacob. But for Esau, he makes do. And he does. And then he says, but when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck. So yes, you will serve him, but eventually there will come a time when that will end. A silver lining at best to this blessing that he gives to Esau. It was not the blessing that Esau was looking for. Well, verse 41 says, Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. Yeah, no doubt. He held a grudge. And he said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. Right? Who else do we know about from this book killed their brother? Cain. Yeah. He's acting like Cain, showing what was on the inside. I will kill my brother Jacob. Now, instead of Isaac's favorite son receiving the blessing, he blessed Jacob and caused strife between the two. Verse 42, it says, when Rebekah was told that her oldest son Esau, what her oldest son Esau had said, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, your brother Esau is planning to avenge himself by killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Again, she's the brain of the whole operation in both circumstances. She's like, Jacob, do what I say. And Jacob's just like, okay. Right, he goes along with it. But Rebekah hatches another plan now, realizing, yes, we got the blessing, and now Esau wants to kill him. Okay, we gotta pivot here. We gotta come up with a new plan. We avoided the curse, but now we have the wrath of Esau headed our way. So now, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you did to him. Pause. Forgets what you did to him? Who hatched that plan? Rebekah. Rebekah came up with that plan to steal the blessing, and now she's saying, give your brother time. He'll forgive you for what you did to him. When he calms down and forgets what you did, like, Mom, you came up with this plan. But she says when he forgets what you did to him, I'll send word for you to come back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. Esau's wives, right? Esau's wives, right? It's the one thing that Isaac didn't like about Esau was these two women. And Rebekah pushes hard on that and says, I can't take it anymore. These two women, I can't stand it. And you know what would be even worse? What she says, if Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. So, Isaac thinks, okay, happy wife, happy life. I'll go along with that plan. Isaac, turning the page to the next chapter, Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. Wait. What did Isaac do to Jacob? Was he under compulsion? Was he being deceived at this point? He's had a change of heart. He's had a change of mind. Now Isaac is openly and willingly going to bless Jacob. He commanded him, "Do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go at once to Paddan Aram, to the house of your mother's father Bethuel. Take a wife for yourself there from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother." And then listen to this blessing in verse 3. "May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples." Where have we heard that before? That's Abraham, yeah. And even before that, Genesis 1. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, increase in number." Isaac is now openly blessing him with this original blessing from God. "May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham." Isaac has a change of heart. Pretty instantly. I think Isaac quickly had to reckon with what he did, the consequences of what he did. And he realizes, well, what I've done. Jacob is going to be blessed, so bless him. It's no use to curse him now. He has the favor of God. He has this blessing from Abraham. So if that's what God is doing, I'm going to walk in it too. Isaac has this change of heart, and he blesses Jacob. Verse 5, and we'll wrap up here for tonight. It says, "Then Isaac sent Jacob on his way, and he went to Paddan Aram, to Laban the son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau." And during this story, Jacob is not pictured as a good guy, right? Jacob he's a shyster. He's a trickster. He's a deceiver. He's not a man's man. He's pretty passive in the whole occasion, right? He does whatever his mama tells him to do. But now he's being sent away. And oftentimes this happens when you have two men together, and kind of one's the alpha and one's the beta, and right, Esau's the tough guy, and so he gets his way on everything. But now Jacob's being sent off to find a wife. We'll talk more about this next week, but oftentimes men finding a wife gives them a purpose to be more of a man, a purpose to be a better man, right? How many of you men would testify, and you better raise your hand, how many of you would testify that your wife has made you a better man? Yeah. Marriage is a sanctifying experience, and so it will be for Jacob when we return next week. Thank you all for being here.